Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back to the 19th episode of my Higurashi When They Cry Let's Play. Today we will be doing the all-cast review session, as well as just some additional theories, just looking at some basic stuff. Do a small amount of rereading. I'm going to try to keep this from being too ridiculous. But this is kind of just a small little... It's almost a filler episode, but like... one that I would have probably, I probably would have done a lot of this anyways, and so I figured you guys would want to see it. So if you don't particularly care to see all of that, just want to see reaction to new content, specifically Chapter 3, I don't think it'll be too long, but that does tie into something else. I did have a question, and I really would appreciate answers to this in the comments. I'm really not trying to comment bait. I just want to know, what would you guys say your, ideal upload pace is for a game like this? Because right now I'm doing roughly every other day, roughly an hour of content a day. And I'm like, is that too much? This is a VN, so like a long VN. So obviously I want to get through it at a decent pace, so that we can keep moving. But I just want to make sure that I'm not flooding you guys with too much content. And this isn't even to say you don't have to give me I'm not necessarily going to perfectly follow whatever pace I decide on, but in the case where I am following well enough, I'm playing pretty regularly, which right now I am playing very regularly, right? And so I'm not too worried about it. But things like in a few weeks, taking a trip to see some family. I'm like, how much would the ideal upload spacing be at that point, right? So if you guys have any input on that, please let me know down in the comments. I'll probably also leave a comment about this so that everyone sees this, because like I said, I really would appreciate answers to this one. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the review session, first and foremost. I've got a list of prompts of things that I want to kind of think about a bit more in depth. But we'll do the review session first, see what that might tell us, Let's go ahead and jump right into this. What do they got for us this time?
日暮らしの泣く頃に水綿流しを最後までお楽しみいただき誠にありがとうございました。今度のシナリオはいかがだったでしょうか？
It was pretty good, if I do say so myself. The ending was certainly a banger.
ちょっぴりでもお楽しみいただければ幸いです。
Well, Rena, and the author, you're going to be quite happy then.
ちょっぴりも何も。また、大大バッドエンドですわ。プンプンでございますことよ。
Satoko does not like bad endings.
プンプンなのです。いやー、みんなお疲れまあ、終わり方こそあれだったけど、今回のシナリオは事実上、未音編みたいなもんだったんじゃない？
Yeah, pretty much.
私大活躍で大満足にゃははは
She does not even care what that role was. She's like, I played a big role, let's go.
あんなの大活躍とは言いませんですわ。私もリカも殺されちゃったですのよ。しかもサトコはただのとばっちりなのですよ。
Yeah, that is the tough thing, is maybe they're gonna play some card on us eventually, right? That implies that Satoko is way more involved than we thought. I think it's likely. But in this case, it really does seem like she just kind of got caught in the crossfire, right? If you're Mion, you kill Rika, right? And Satoko knows exactly where she was. I can't say I'm surprised when your next move is to kill Satoko,
あんな死に方嫌なのですな。ほら泣かないで。みーちゃんメインのお話だったようにさとこちゃんメインのお話もあるんだから、今から楽しみだね。きっと サトコがひどい目にあってじわりじわりといたぶり回される話に違いないね。
Dang, I didn't know the demon was also showing up in the review session.
そうなのいや
Poor Satoko. Does not deserve that. Oh lord.
みーちゃん、悪ふざけが過ぎるとレナもちょっとだけ怒るよ。
That's the last thing you want. What is it about recording YouTube videos that always makes me yawn so much? I don't understand it. I'm not tired, I'm not bored.
みーがぺったんこなのです。
Hey, yo, the disrespect!
なでなでしたくても頭がわからないのです。
What? What? It's out of pocket.
膨らんできましたわ。無節操な体ですのね。
やあみんな。
Bro, he died a miserable death again. Let's see if Tomatake can break that curse in Chapter 3. That's gonna be... You know, we'll see.
お疲れさ。
また遅れて申し訳ありませんね。
富武さんに大石さん、どうもお疲れ様でした。あれ、高野さんとしーちゃんはまだですか？もちろん来てますよ。今日はお招きいただきありがとうございますね。ここ座ってもいい？
I'm not shocked to see Shia.
どうぞですわよ。
Takano wasn't at the last one, was she? I suppose she wasn't that central of a character in the last one, though.
これだけ一堂に集まると圧巻ね。
Was she in the last one, actually? Am I tripping? I don't remember anymore. I think they had, what, exactly 8 people? Or it might have been 6. They had an even amount. So, I mean, when you take the... You know, the 4 Hinamizawa girls, right, that go to school with Keiichi. Take Oishi, take Tomatake. If you add Takano, there'd have to be someone else, and I can't think of who that someone else would be. So I think it was, I think no Takano.
どうかお手柔らかに。じゃあ始めても大丈夫かな。これで全員かな。ケイチを除けば全員なのです。
Bro has no sprites.
ってことは、前原さんは相変わらず収録が終わってなくて、早々に次回シナリオの台本読みなんですか？
I hope Rika makes another comment about his lack of sprites.
気の毒な話ね。私たちだけで盛り上がっちゃ悪い気がするわ。高野さん、そんなの気にしなくていいんですよ。こういう時は思いっきり盛り上がった方がかえって気を使わせないもんなんです。それもそうですわね。せっかくこれだけ集まったのにお通夜じゃつまらないですわ。
じゃあ、ケイチ君には悪いけど、僕たちでやらせてもらおうか。
Poor guy. I wonder if he'll, like, eventually get sprites. I mean, like, if you don't start with him, I can't imagine you're ever gonna have him, but, like, he does show up in a few CGs at least, so it's not like we don't know what he looks like. But, I mean, I guess we didn't have Shiro's sprites either, and we knew what he looked like, so... Yeah, I guess it's probably a little unreasonable to think he would get sprites at some point.
そうなれば決まりだね。じゃあみんなコップコップ。炭酸が嫌いな人いる？
大人の皆さんにはアルコールもありますよ。
You know, I'm not shocked Oishi is ready to provide the alcohol.
リカちゃんは何を飲む？ブドウジュース？オレンジジュース？
みー、富武のと同じ泡麦茶がいいのです。
Huh? You better not go too crazy.
リカちゃんもお酒はダメ。
Mine's getting, like, stern.
みんなコップ持ちましたですの？早く乾杯しないとジュースがぬるくなってしまいますわ。おねえ、温度は誰が取るの？レナでいいでしょ。じゃあレナよろしく。では、ゴン。みんな 綿流し終了。お疲れ様でした。
お疲れ様でした。
I don't know why it just now dawned on me that with no Keiichi here, I have to do absolutely no reading. Like, out loud. Never mind, I lied. They got me. I've been outplayed, bamboozled. How? I summoned a line that I had to read. That's insane, right? Not that I mind it, it's just sound effects. I could probably start skipping the sound effect lines, but you know what? Wah, clap, 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 clap. There you go.
じゃあみんな揃ったんだしね。また今回のシナリオを議論してみないかい？
Let's do it. Them debating the story will, make me think,
そうですね。じゃあ自由意見でいきましょうか。誰か意見のある人はいますか？意見も何も今回のシナリオで謎は全て解けたのではありませんこと？
It kind of looked like that for the first hour or two. And then they said, psych!
犯人はミオンさん。諸悪の根源は全部その崎家。それで決着でございませんの？
Not really. Because one notable thing that is in one of my prompts, right, is that I am, very, very positive that it said absolutely nothing about the deaths of Toмотake or Takano being tied to Mion.
そうだね。みーちゃんは犯人じゃないって信じてたんだけどな。大穴ですよ。こんなのは前回の鬼隠しから十分予想できたことじゃないですか。
Entirely is maybe a stretch, but I mean, it is a little, I don't want to call it super predictable, but you definitely could guess that Mion is likely to go off her rocker at some point.
むしろ予想通りすぎて呆れちゃうくらいですよ。
I think that's a bit of a stretch, but
そうですね。前回のシナリオをプレイされた方の予想の大多数と合致するんじゃないでしょうかね。
みんなの期待通りの展開になったみたいなのです。
right until the end, maybe?
これで日暮の泣く頃にスイのメインシナリオはほとんど終わりなのかな？
No.
すべての元凶はみーちゃんの園崎家で決まり？
そうかしら。私はむしろこれで園崎家犯人説はなくなったと思ってるくらいだけれど。
That's actually something I kind of agree with, because look, it could have still just been the Sonozaki family, but at the very least, it's not literally Mio behind everything, because she was dead. And there were still mysterious circumstances that were very related to mysterious circumstances we'd already seen, right, in Takano earlier, right? And with two victims who we don't know who killed them, right? I think it does indicate that the Sonozakis might not be the main perpetrator. Which is interesting.
あ、高野さんと意見が合いましたね。私も同じ意見。私はタタリなんか信じないけど、でも少なくとも園崎家が真犯人である確率は薄くなったと思ってるね。
Agreed.
どうしてなの？
Why does Mion always have W takes?
だってみーちゃんがみんなを殺したって自供したじゃない。そうですわ。私とリカを殺しておいて今さら犯人じゃないなんてどういう意味なんですの？
She is a criminal. That doesn't mean she is the criminal.
別に煙に巻くつもりはないよ。たださ、私ミオンが全ての犯人だとするにはいろいろと無理が多いんだよ。ちょっと考えればすぐわかるよ。
僕は園崎家犯人説の近からず遠からずに真相があると確信してるんだけど、ぜひミオンちゃんの説が聞きたいね。
ではご拝聴。ラストで私がさ、過去の事件に自分は全て関与しているって白状するでしょ？
How reliable is that, though?
あそこで感じた大きな違和感が根拠かな。
Yeah. That was one of the things I was really wondering about, was because I feel like there was something that later gave us reason to believe. feel like there was something later that gave us reason to believe that she might have been lying there. Right, whether it was something that was said, I don't fully remember. I feel like for some reason in my head there was a line where like they like untied her to the past incidents.
だって考えてみなよ。過去の事件が園崎家の起こしたものならすごいことだよ。だってどれもほぼ完全犯罪でしょ。園崎家以外の犯人や事故で決着するという究極の犯罪だもの。
Also, wouldn't the bodies have likely been found with all of the other bodies, including bodies that are older than those cases are, right? You know, I think that's something you got to keep in mind. There were like 10-year-old bodies in there, right? I don't think it's weird to think that there would be a 3-year-old body in there, right? Or a 4-year-old body in there, you know, like...
そりゃそうでしょう。だって大きな力を持つ園崎家が暗躍してるんだもの。完全犯罪なんてお茶の子さいさいでしょ。そこが違和感なんだよ。過去4年間園崎本家の気配を全く感じさせずにあれだけ上手に人を殺したり消したりしてきたんだよ。そこへ行くと5年目の事件はすごくチープなんだよ。手当たり次第に片っ端から消して殺して、しかも園崎家とのつながりは簡単にカンパできちゃうしさ。
Yeah, pretty much.
そう言われてみればそうだね。過去の事件はたたりとも犯罪ともつかない不思議な連続事件だったけど、
This one felt a lot more open and shut, right?
今回の5年目の事件だけはすごく乱暴だったもんね。何を言ってるのかよくわかりませんわ。リカにはわかります？つまり園崎家が本当に犯人なら5年目の事件ももっともっと上手にやったと言っているのですよ。
I think that reasoning is a little faulty, but not completely so, right? I think if the Sonozaki... Okay, so I think a better way to put this in my head is if the Sonozaki family as a whole was still the one conducting all of these incidents, then yeah, they probably would have done better. I don't think the Sonozaki family suddenly got incredibly desperate and sloppy, right? Mion herself, sure, right? But the Sonozaki family, no.
じゃあつまり何ですの？私とリカを殺したのはミオンさんではなく、ミオンさんに取り付いた鬼の仕業だったってことですの？
No, it means you have to separate them, if you ask me.
ほらほら。
But separate the killings unique to this chapter from the ones we've seen yearly.
やっぱり前回の私の予想通り、ミオンさんは悪い人じゃなかったのですわ。
Nah, she's still murked y'all.
そうそう。レナもサトコちゃんも何かが取り付いて悪いことをしてるってじゃあやっぱり私たちの説は正しかったのかな。
私も前回から引き続きたたり説ですが、今回のシナリオでさらに確信を深めましたよ。ラストのラストで私が明かす目撃されていたにもかかわらず、その数日前に死んでいたという高野さんやミオンさんの情報はまさにそれを裏付けると思います。
This right here is seriously what I don't know what to do with. Because it's really, really hard to explain that. We're just gonna let them talk about that. See if anyone has anything that spurs any thoughts in me. But I will definitely talk about the whole already being dead thing.
あらあら、前回は弱かったたたり派が今回はずいぶん強気ね。人間犯人説の皆さんには反論はないのかしら？
前回人間犯人説だったのは確かみーちゃんにリカちゃん、
Tomatake as well, right?
それから富武さんでしたよね。では張り切って反論をお願いします。
入ったな。うまい言葉が思いつかないな。
たたり派の根拠の一つが合わない死亡時刻なんですよね。じゃあそのトリックを崩せれば人間犯人説は立証できるわけですね。
I think that's a leap, but it would be a humongous step, like, towards that being the right explanation, right? Like, you know, like, think about it as, like, odds, right? You know, if I personally still really think it's much more likely that it's like all human explained somehow, with maybe the psychostimulant drugs playing some kind of slightly BS, almost magical role, right, is my guess. But basically my point is, right, if it's like, say it's 30-70 in favor of the curse right now, I think proving how the mismatched times of death works would, shift it to like 70-30 in favor of human explanation. That being said, I still personally already am leaning like, honestly, probably more heavy than 70-30 towards human. But like I said, I think that's mainly just because, I don't know, in a mystery like this, I want to find reason behind everything rather than just, curse. I wouldn't be upset necessarily if it was the curse explanation, as long as it's like well written and like logical or like reasonable, right? But I'm definitely leaning towards human.
シオンには何かいい反論があるの？まあ一応。でも私、人間犯人説ではお姉と同じ意見ですけど、園崎家が主犯だと思ってる点ではお姉とは違いますよ。それでもよければ反論してみせますけど。
なんでも結構ですわ。これがたたりじゃないというなら、その証拠を示してごらんなさいませ。
じゃあシオンちゃん、さっきから話題になってるミオンちゃんは事件当日に井戸に落ちて死んでいたにもかかわらず、数日後に現れてケイチ君とあなたを殺したのはどうやってなのかしら？
One of my first thoughts is that it was like a fear/paranoia induced suicide. But my problem with that theory is, how does that explain Takano? Right? Because if the theory is that Mion just wasn't there and like when Shion or Keiji died, right? How in the world do you explain Takano? Right? Because she was there, right? Verifiably, with witnesses, right? Again, unless you have to separate them, right? It kind of feels like the explanation of just they were hallucinating is not true. So I don't know how to explain this.
ズバリ、園崎姉妹共犯説です。理由は簡単。だってお姉はあの時点でもう死んでるんですから、ケイちゃんをさせるのは私しかいないんです。
Ooh.
私がお姉の変装してケイちゃんを刺す。
Ooh. Wait, I literally hadn't considered that. I mean, I'd been considering the possibility that it was people disguised, but I had never considered the possibility. Ooh. I had never considered the possibility of that. But which one died first?
そして実質へ戻り、幽霊との取っ組み合いの狂言をして飛び降り自殺。
Okay, so did Shion die after? Well, I thought Shion died first. The Mion who visited us said, now that's everybody I wanted to kill, right? Which made it really feel like Shion was already dead.
強いて言えばこの場合のミオンちゃんは泥をかぶる役だね。村長さんたちに直接手を下し、シオンちゃんはただの被害者の形にする。そして井戸の中に姿を隠していれば、変装したシオンちゃんが神出鬼没にいくらでも殺人を犯せるって寸法さ。
なるほどね。だとするとミオンさんにとっての誤算は2つ。死体が見つかってしまったことと、隠れているだけのつもりが死んでしまったことってことになるわけですね。
あれれれ、確かになんとなく辻褄が合うような。
I would need to look at the time of deaths. I'm not actually sure how much I'd buy that.
でもやっぱり納得できないでしょう。過去の完全犯罪の華麗さと違いすぎるもの。その計画、たとえうまくいってもミオンは悪役でしょ。
Yeah, L Mion.
一生隠れて、あるいはシオンのふりをしたりして生きていかなきゃならないんでしょ。
That is true.
窮屈すぎ。こんなの完全犯罪とは言わないって。
つまり 死ぬにせよ消えるにせよ、ミーはいなくなってしまうわけなのです。
To be fair, she did basically tell Keiichi as much, right? Like that this was the last time he'd see Mion, right? And that anyone else, it's the demon. We don't know what the demon means, but it certainly does not mean something good, right? And in that case, I mean, if you see Mion and it's literally Shion, that's obviously not Mion, you know? So she wouldn't be lying.
リカちゃま、それいい意見。つまり園崎ミオンが表舞台からいなくなるのは彼女らのシナリオの一部だと思うわけです。だからラストでミオンはポンポンと過去の事件の罪をかぶるんですよ。
I can definitely buy that part though.
全部の事件の責任を一身に引き受けて退場。そうすることで過去の事件の真犯人を隠蔽できる。つまり今年の事件はチープなんかじゃなく、過去の事件を丸ごと完全犯罪にするための締めくくりの事件、そういう位置づけになるのかな。
I can
一番疑われている園崎家の若き当主が全てを自白して失踪。
which would not bring the old cases into question any further.
彼女もしくは園崎家以外の真犯人にとってこれほど美味しい結末はないってことになるのかしらね。
話が全然わかりませんのよ。ミオンさんが罪をかぶるってどういう意味ですの？犯人なんじゃないんですの？つまりね、連続開始事件の真犯人が別にいるの。その人を守るためにミーちゃんが過去の事件も全て自分が起こしたと嘘の告白をしたってみんなは言ってるの。
I can definitely buy this.
これは劇中のセリフになりますが、とんだ名探偵さんがいたもんです。
Rena's intelligence is not to be underestimated moving forward.
確かにちょっと説得力を感じますよ。
真の犯人をごまかすために起こした事件、それが私の推理。さらに言えばその真の犯人は園崎家以外の存在だと思ってるんだけどね。
4年連続で完全犯罪に成功した謎の人物をさらに守るためにミオンちゃんが起こした捜査か乱の事件ということかしら。
I've got something I want to add to this, and I just don't know how to word it, so we're just gonna keep moving. But
そういうことです。鬼隠しのシナリオで名前だけ登場した監督ってのがかなり怪しいかな。
that was part of what I wanted to mention, at the very least.
すごいです。実に辻褄が合いますのですよ。
Clap, clap, clap.
私はそれでも園崎家プラス姉妹が犯人だと思ってますけどね。御三家による古いしがらみを断ち切るために姉妹が起こした過去の清算のための事件、それが私の推理です。
I could see that being the cause of this incident specifically, yeah. At least in
過
part.
去の生産ってのはつまり
Right. Because, I mean, it's hard to take everything Mion said at face value. But I don't, again, I've said this multiple times, I would be kind of shocked if the majority of the explanation of the Sonozaki's past didn't prove to be true. And so I really wouldn't be surprised if all of that, like, kind of stress and that burden on her shoulders, right, she felt like she might be able to clear that away by getting rid of the three families, right? Because specifically, they really were targeting, like, it really looks like they were targeting the three families, to me, right? And so you gotta wonder why, right? What was there to gain from that?
暗躍の歴史に終止符を打つため御三家の罪を最後の当主のミオンが全てかぶり姉妹揃って退場したってことだね。
Yeah, I could see this, actually.
そういうことです。私たち姉妹が悩みに悩み抜いた末に選んだ悲しい物語だったというわけです。できすぎですね。
You think?
すごいです。実に辻褄が合いますですよ。
I don't know. Saying it all adds up, I feel like, is a little reductive, but I think it does make sense. Alright, hold on, let me... Whoops. You guys get to enjoy the Danganronpa 1 intro, or not 1. What is that, Future Arc, I think? Oh my goodness, I did it again. Just trying to pull up one of my Word docs. Hope you guys enjoyed that, I guess. Okay, so let me find this. One thing that I'd been wondering from in the past is what are the odds that, like, because I think the theory that this is clap. Whoops. So someone right here, I really like Mion's theory here. I wouldn't be shocked if this whole incident was, at least in part, a way to kind of close the case on the close the book in the prior cases. Because something I've been wondering, and I have this in my Higurashi Things to Keep in Mind notes, is, my words were, is being the Onikakashi a disappearing act? Right? As in, could this be a way to let certain people disappear from the public eye, while possibly even still being alive? Right? Until we confirm their corpses, it's not impossible that they're alive, right? And that's the case with what? The director, right? The director should still be alive, right? And I don't know that they were actually the Onikakashi of that very first incident. I think by all accounts, it would actually be the person who got, or the person who was kind of. Oh goodness, I'm gonna have to look at the wording on that again. This one always, I get this mixed up a lot. I honestly need to write that one down in this document. When they say director, do they mean like the person who was responsible for killing the construction worker, right? The foreman, or do they mean the foreman themselves? Because right now in my head they mean the foreman themselves, which doesn't make sense because they should be dead, right? And that one should be confirmed dead. So basically a lot of what I've been wondering is was the director this was just some whole scheme to let the director disappear, and then the killings afterwards could have been a way to throw off the scent, and then this could be a way to finally close the case, and then no one would be none the wiser, right? No one would ever really re-investigate that first case if this is true, right? If take responsibility for all the old incidents, right? Whatever. And I mean, now that I think about it, it would also maybe explain... maybe not. It could explain why Mion told us so much on the phone, right? While disguised as Shion, right? Because I was really wondering, what does she have to gain by telling us all of that? But if she makes us think it's very likely that the Sonozakis were involved, and they weren't, right? That really would be playing into that. So this is definitely, I think, the theory I'm leaning towards right now. But I don't think this one, this is exactly unlikely either. That these were, their motivations for actually going through with it, but that perhaps even somebody else that they know really wanted them to go through with this.
あれあれ、なんだかリカちゃんにも意見がありそうだね。リカちゃんもどうぞ。
See what Rika's got.
では皆さんに質問なのです。圭一はどうして刺されなければいけないのですか？ リカ、そんなのは決まってますわよ。入っちゃいけない細具店に勝手に入ったからに決まってますわ。
I really don't think that's the reasoning.
こうして思い返すと、他のシナリオでも死んだ富武さんと高野さんの死もきっと細具殿に忍び込んだせいってことなんでしょうな。
No. And that's one of my biggest points of contention with the whole chapter, right? Like, biggest points of contention as in, like, things I need to solve. Because think about it like this. Takano was already dead, right? If she was going to be punished for that act, she wouldn't have been punished a day before she committed it, right? It would have been afterwards, right? And so if she was already dead, I really think it's safe to assume that was not the reason she was killed. Like, I kind of think that's a safe assumption. And if you think that isn't the reason she was killed, is that the same for Tomitake? Was he killed for a different reason? Same with everyone else. We'll let them talk, but that is really something I wanted to get out there, is that I really don't think the motives that... I really don't think we have a good read on the motives for those killings right now. I really don't think it was just going into the storehouse.
ありゃ
He was dead.
おかしなことになってきたわね。
おかしなことって何がですか？あ、レナさん、そうですわ。思い出してくださいませ。そうなのです。例えば鬼隠しのシナリオでは圭一は細具殿には忍び込んでいないのに命を狙われているのです。
I mean, that's a big one too, right? I feel like in this chapter, it seemed a lot more understandable why they were after him. In chapter 1, it was just, what, he talked to police, right? Like, that's the only common tie we have right now, is that link to Oishi, frankly. Remember.
それはきっとほら、ひなみ沢はよそ者を嫌うんだろ。だから圭一君も命を狙われたんだよ。
それはおかしいでしょう。だったらケイちゃんの両親だって襲われていいはず。
Yes, very true.
どう見ても両親に危機が迫っていたようには見えないね。
Very, very, very true. It really does not just feel like an outsider's thing. It feels like something about Keiichi specifically, right? And so when you think about the only things that like are tied in with Keiichi, it's quite literally his visits with, I mean, like, the people he interacts with. It doesn't have to just be Oishi, right? Tomitake, Takano, right? The people at school, right? Like, his parents don't really interact with them much. One of them, right? Maybe, I don't know exactly which one, but I suspect one of them could be the tie. I
今
don't
回だ
know.
けでなく他のシナリオでも。
さあさあ、人間犯人説の皆様方、圭一さんが狙われる理由がちゃんと説明できませんと人間が犯人とは立証できませんでしたよ。
That is very much true. You can't. That's why we need to find that explanation.
でもたたり説だとしてもやはり前原さんが前回も今回も襲われる理由が分かりませんけどね。
Also true. I definitely don't think that they would use in this game. I don't think, even if the curse theory is true, I really don't think they would just use it as a way to like without any reasoning, right? You know, because if there's absolutely no reasoning to who gets picked by the curse, I feel like it wouldn't make for a very interesting mystery story. I don't know. Maybe they can make it better than I thought if that's the route they go. But I feel like there being some kind of reason makes it way more interesting.
もう一息で解明できそうだったけど、やっぱり謎はたくさん残ってるみたいだね。
圭一君以外の人の死には何かしら理由が見つけられるんだけど、鬼隠しでもたらい回しでも、そして細具殿に踏み入るのとは無関係に狙われてる。
では今回だけではなく他のシナリオでも殺されるようなことをしちゃってるんじゃありませんこと？
I think that's the safe assumption, but what?
なるほど。他のシナリオと今回の前原さんの行動に共通項が見つけられれば、それが全体の事件の謎を解く鍵になりそうですね。
ざっとシナリオを読み比べたけど、圭一君なりに日々を送ってると思うよ。西宮殿の一件さえ除けば、圭一君の日々の暮らしに不審な点は見当たらないけどな。
圭一くん、今回と他のシナリオの時に何をやったのかな。殺されるような悪いこと。迷った時には本人に聞いてみるのが一番なのですよ。
We're getting our Keiichi call. Let's go.
ほほう、俺が一人寂しく次回の台本読みをしている間に、みんなはそういう話題で盛り上がっていたわけか。ほう。
というわけなの。だからね、圭一くんの自分の胸に聞いてみてほしいんだけど。
ケイちゃん、殺されるようなどんな悪いことをやったわけ？
私にいつも働いている狼藉のせいに違いないですわ。
Doubtful.
僕に時々危ない視線を向けて妄想に浸っている顔はまさに犯罪者そのものなのです。
I might give you that one.
そうそう、年頃の女の子たちに囲まれて毎日幸せってのがそもそもの罪のような気がするな。
All your fault, Keiichi.
なそれは確かに重罪ですね。前原さん、実に羨ましい主人公役ですよ。
Envious.
たまには変わってください。
Bro wants to be brutally murdered.
まあ確かにあれだけ役得がいろいろあれば最後にちょっと刺されるくらいお安いご用よね。
You know, I don't know that I can agree. I would rather not hang out with 4 women of my age if it came at the cost of getting stabbed. I must admit, personally, that is a losing trade to me.
というわけで圭一さん、あなたの犯した罪を思い出しまして。
今回も他のシナリオでも清く正しく生きてる俺がいつもラストはひどい目に。その上さらに自分の胸に聞いてみろだと。
Ask your own heart is kind of insane, I'm not gonna lie.
聞きたいのは俺の方だぞ。これは何かの謀略だ。
Poor guy.
かわいそかわいそです。今度頭をなでなでしてあげますですよ。
Thank you, Rika. That'll help.
今回のシナリオを読んだ上で改めて鬼隠しを読むべきかな。私はミオンの立場になって綿流しを読み返してみるよ。ケイちゃんの立場で読んだ時とは違う発見があるかもね。
私は鬼の仕業だとずーっと思ってますのよ。
I'm gonna be honest, I think you're hard pressed to get me to read chapter 1 in its entirety again after I just reread it. So, but we will reread bits and pieces for sure.
すべての現象とトリックはすべて鬼で説明がつきますのよ。なんだかプラズマみたいなのです。
That's a funny
プ
comparison.
レイしてくださった皆さんはどうお感じになりましたか？
We don't know what's going on, so it's demons, plasma, you know, just that kind of thing.
ぜひ先に進む前にいろいろと推理してみてくださいね。
まだまだ先は長いですけど頑張ってくださいね。
Probably it then.
それでは引き続き日暮らしの泣く頃に推をお楽しみください。
Right now, I definitely am. Alright, so that's that. So, it definitely spurred some interesting thoughts. Definitely spurred some interesting thoughts. Let me go ahead and open up this document. Okay, so let's look at a few of these questions. I'll probably go back into the text, so I'm going to keep the game over here. So first of all, okay, some of these questions are very related to Chapter 1, and so I'm not going back into Chapter 1 right now, I don't think. I will probably go back into chapter 1 eventually, but like, the first thing that I asked was, why was Rena so different? Which Rena is the normal Rena? Right now, I kind of feel like that maybe this is, hopeful, a little too hopeful. But right now, it feels like chapter 2 Rena is like the normal Rena. So what made her so different in 1? Right? That's a difficult question, right? Very, very difficult question. I don't feel like I'm going to say this a lot in the next however long I spend reading through these questions. I don't know, right? I gave myself a follow-up question. Did something set her off like Mion? And that kind of feels possible. I think one thing that you could really wonder about is one thing I'm really wondering about is like, I think I'd written this down somewhere, is I'm kind of wondering if something about Hinamizawa like really amplifies people's fears or perhaps other emotions, right? I don't know what this would be, right? But like, I'm thinking like, I feel like you look at, Mion, right? Where in her case, a lot of what happened to her was like seemingly a direct result of Keiichi like kind of neglecting her, right? And her not taking that well and then kind of blowing things out of proportion, right? What he did was obviously messed up, but that doesn't usually justify several murders, if you ask me. And so something I'm wondering, like, this is another question, like, is the way they kind of go crazy, is it tied together, right? Is it the same thing, right? Is it that same feeling of like they felt they were being mistreated, or just scared of something, or really emotional about something? Because honestly, now that I think about it, fear is maybe a strong way to put it. Because I don't know so much that Mion felt fear, right? I don't know if she was scared of much. I mean, maybe the Sonozaki family, right? But she more felt sad, right? And like just that general range of emotions that you can describe as sad, right? Maybe it's the same for Rena, right? In chapter 1, maybe she saw Keiichi start to go down the same route as Satoshi, and that really amplified her negative emotions. This all feels like, I don't know, something about this feels strange to me right now. So I don't know how much I want to stick to this theory, but I don't have another theory as to what could have like actually set them off. And it's really important. At some point, we have to understand what set off Rena in chapter 1, what set off Mion in chapter 2, right? And anyone else who gets set off in the future, we really need to figure it out. I personally think chapter 3 is going to be a big make or break point, right? I don't want to say that if I don't solve things by chapter 3 that I can't solve them, right? But I think chapter 3 will probably get us to a point where we have several examples to work with, right? We're not just looking at, like, so anything that stays the same 3 times or is similar all 3 times, it's probably really important. Anything that changes a lot might be less important, and you can start to narrow in on the important details and the less important ones, and maybe discern things a little better because of that. Because right now, like I said, we don't even know which Rena is closer to the normal Rena. Right now, I assume chapter 2 personally, but it could just be chapter 1. The easiest way to know that is, of course, to play chapter 3. And if Rena goes, ballistic again, we know chapter 2 is the anomaly, right? So knowing which chapters are the anomalies, like, really, really makes it a lot easier to know what's going on. And so right now, I think it's a little out of reach still to figure out exactly if it's not just kind of what I was saying, some kind of amplification of negative emotions, right? That is happening in Hinamizawa. And I think you could argue this is true of Keiichi as well, by the way. And that's why I kind of like this theory right now, because Keiichi was starting to feel feelings of like fear and paranoia, right? And woo, they got amplified, right? A lot of those feelings were incredibly strong, and so I wonder, is this just something like about Hinamizawa, like they just feel really strongly somehow, right? Again, maybe, I'm saying quite literally, is it something in the air, right? I know that's like, that might just be really goofy, but I don't know, that's like my best guess right now, if it's something unique to Hinamizawa itself, right? And that does kind of bring me into the next question, because I think we've kind of talked about that enough. I don't really think I have too much to add to the what makes their like the what makes Mion and Rena so different, right? Like, or what is different about their scenarios? Why are they acting the way they do? I think that's about all I can really guess right now, right? Of course, I mean the other guess is that it's some kind of injection, right? Like the injection, right? And I still think that's a good guess, but it still begs the question, like, why? Like, it wouldn't. Okay, so maybe it's like they've had the injection already, and then feeling extremely strong feelings might make things worse. Like some, I don't know, like some big effect, because Mion really like it's hard. Chapter 2, like there's so much potential unreliable narrator in Higurashi. Sometimes you don't know what is true, what is not. But Mion told us that she had beaten back this demon within her, basically, right? And like everything that Keiichi did is what caused it to come back, right? And so it's like, I guess it's something that's already there, right? Could it? I mean, it could just have been an injection, right? That gets worse because of like strong emotion, and then you kind of succumb to it, right? It's my best guess right now, is that general theory. So I guess we move on for now. That the next question was actually, how much of chapter 1 should we chalk up to unreliable narrator? I think that is way, 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 way too hard to say right now. And I even said that in the question. This is just extraordinarily broad, right? And too broad to fully cover. And then just anything in particular, right? Just think, right? Is there any like specific moment that I can think of where things start to spill over into unreliable narrator? Right, I think it's hard to take nearly anything that happened arguably after Keiichi goes nuts in the doorway, right, and destroys everything with a baseball bat. It might be kind of hard to take most of that at face value, right? There are certain things that definitely did happen, right? Certain events that are undeniable, such as the needle, right? In the Moki. You can't deny that that happened because Mion confirmed it, right? But Mion was like, it was just a prank, right? Maybe a really bad one, right? But it's like, could this be unreliable narrator? And then it's just Keiichi is seeing way too much into everything. That's why he's so paranoid. That needle means something it doesn't. The presence behind him means it doesn't mean what he thinks it does, right? The people who are like trying to kill him, in his eyes, some of them maybe aren't, and he's just going insane, and so people are trying to subdue him, right? Is a possibility. Now, he did him getting run over thing, and then finding that same, or almost getting run over, and then finding that same exact van later, including a group of people who were probably not very good, based on what we could tell, given that they removed specific information, right? I do think there is a lot. I'm not going to say that chapter is completely innocuous or something, but I think there's a lot of things in there that could just be innocuous, right? And so it's just something I need to keep in mind. Some of those things need to be separated. So let's go back into more chapter 2 specifically. Why did Rika have that syringe with her? right? And we could probably, like, hopefully, just go ahead and load up chapter. Whoops. Oh, actually, wait, this kind of works. I think these were just thumbnail saves, but it actually works pretty well. So we wait till we see Rika.
リカさん、
Right.
村のマスコットみたいなところがありましたからね。
It was okay, so she just had a syringe and it was destroyed. So we don't really. Does it? I don't know if it indicates whether or not the syringe was actually used, though. So something I'm wondering is obviously we don't know what that syringe does, but like I've been really concerned that they're malicious. And if they are, why did Rika have it? Right? Why was she bringing one? I really didn't entertain this thought at the time, but could Rika be more, like, I don't even want to just say involved, but more evil perhaps than we thought? Because I think really, like I really did not want to entertain that thought for a while there, but I have been really, really suspicious of this syringe for a while now, or these syringes for a while now. And there's nothing saying they're the same things, right? But like the fact that twice now these syringes they've either vanished or were destroyed makes you think there's something in there that they really don't want people to find, and I assume it's malicious. Right? Now, it could be completely not malicious, right? It could be, like I said in the last episode, the exact opposite, where it's like somehow helping people, right? Who are already afflicted by something. And I think that explanation also works. It's hard to know which is which right now, to be completely honest. All right, quick little jump cut because I thought this was taking a tremendous amount of time with extremely little progress until just now, arguably. So, a crackpot theory that I've had for a while is that Keiichi and Mion maybe were given some form of medication for some mystery ailment that was, in my words, basically a 3-day process to insanity, possibly ending in suicide. Part of the theory is that they're given medicine to help prevent it, and after 3 days they fully run out, and so it's GG's. Right? Because one common link between, like, because I'm kind of wondering if you could argue Keiichi is the insane one in chapter 1, right? Or at least one of them, right? Rena clearly was not in a completely normal state of mind, but I wouldn't be shocked if Keiichi was misinterpreting a lot of the things that he saw, right? And like I said, I just wouldn't be shocked if Keiichi is kind of the one who went insane, right? And so I was starting to wonder because I saw Mion, right? And I thought this because I saw him at the hospital. He got some medicine, right? And I was always like, it's a weird scene. Did we really need to see this? Like, why? Right? But then in Watanagashi, right, this chapter, we saw Mion, who certifiably went insane, right? We saw her have some kind of illness and be taking some medication at the 9-day mark. Correct? I guess let me boot it, because if it's not the 9-day mark, I'm going to look like a dumb idiot. It was the 9-day mark. So we can talk about this with... It would be right around here. I could scroll up. Well, if it would let me into the log. Right here. Took some medicine. It's already working. Whatever. right? So she is taking some form of medication, right? Let's see this talk with Mion. This might give us some information.
また改めて聞いたら何バイバイ
See if there's anything interesting in here, really. That would kind of make me think one way or the other. She was explaining it away as partying, that she was not doing particularly well. But, like, Keiichi was also not able to sleep and having, like, extreme, like, paranoia as a result. We don't know if it's, like, extreme paranoia in the case of, Mion, but... Okay, so nothing else that seemed like a real indicator, one way or the other. But the point is, if we go back to the menu and look at the day marks, right, think about it like this. If she's taking the medication on day 9, and it's a 3-day process, you know, day 10 is 1, day 11 is 2, and then day 12, during day 12, would be when she's out and she's gone fully nuts. That could arguably explain why she said, after this, it's like the demon. You'll never see the real Mion again. Because it's like, it could be some like kind of transformation almost. And so let's look at the chapters in this one. So like this is when Watsunagashi happened. Presumably, this is like the night of Watsunagashi, and this is the next day? So is this when the hospital, or like the scene of him at the clinic, because he wasn't feeling well, was? No.
いいですね。
Was it? I guess it might have been the next day.
何をかい
じゃあ
まだ
6二人なっけ徹底的に叩きのめみーちゃん
数
I'm gonna go to the next day, I suppose. Although, let me actually just like... Oh, okay. It's only playing 1 in the first place, so that's fine. I was wondering if it was playing double music. I wasn't really paying too much attention, but it doesn't really sound like it. I don't hear anything from the other game that I have open. Seems like it'll only focus 1 at a time. So if we go back, nope, not view tips. Not that that's some useless thing to look at, but what I was looking for. Right, so what, day 11? I just did 10, right? I think I just did 10. So, is it 11? No.
先生
彼女がもうやめよう。この話。
着生ほら
So that's also not what we're looking for. Because it would have been the day he stayed home, right? Day 12.
ゆうべ
Looks like
じゃあ母さんが前原さん診察室へど
Right,
うぞ。
so this right here, this line right here is what I'm suspicious of. They gave me a shot in 3 days worth of medicine.
で、あれと仲が良きゃったって話、
So,
知られへんの？
this might sound ridiculous. We're gonna keep moving because there actually was one other thing I wanted to check because I feel pretty positive that there was a line about this.
コーヒーの
I think it was this line. Oishi getting him to take the medication. Is that suspect? If I actually buy
この
this
道
theory,
30年の神
that might be suspect. Okay, so I have verified the 3 days parts. And so we'll briefly talk about this theory because I don't think there's a ton to say. This is one of those things where I'm not fully sold on it yet. This is probably a humongous stretch. But this is something I need to look out for in Chapter 3. Because in Chapter 12, let's look at this. 1, 2, 3. That's 3 days. Again. Right? And I'm like... twice now that we've seen someone say they took medication. Right? And 3 days later are certifiably nuts and possibly committed suicide. That's a trend. Arguably. That's possibly the formation of a trend. And now if in chapter 3 we see this again, that is a trend, right? And so this is something I want to keep my eye on. This is like my big prediction so far. And so I really wanted to get this out there, right? I wanted to get this out in the open. Because if it's right, if I'm right about this somehow, I have to make that known, you know? And I do want to say, one of the big reasons that I was really curious on this theory is I saw the amount of times we saw specifically the number 3, right, in relation to 3 days. The act of what somebody being demoned away and supposedly submerged in the Onigafuchi swamp, right? It took 3 days, right? So I started to wonder, right? Is this like, because it was like a slow descent, supposedly. Is this like a different way of it being a slow descent? But like a slow descent into insanity instead of into the swamp? Slow descent of being like consumed in a way by Onigafuchi village? I don't know. Right? Again, this is a big one. I might look like a certified clown right now, you know, complete with the nose. You know, I got the big red nose on right now. You know, if this is completely off base. But this is something I just wanted to keep in mind. So let's move on. I suppose at this point, let's move on to the next point. The next question was, could the injection affect how you see or interpret other people? As in, see others who aren't there at all, or who you're not seeing who you think you see, and then attribute certain actions to them. So, like literal hallucinations. Is it just the suicide drug, right? Could it be amplifying the fears or other emotions of those who are given it? So this is kind of everything. All of my theories about the syringe so far kind of broiled into one. Right. Personally, I'm actually not sold on the hallucinations theory because people who, unless we think Oishi's taken it, people who very likely have not taken this drug have already, or like not have already, excuse me, have witnessed people that would potentially otherwise not be explained by that, right? Because that was partially my explanation for the Mion we see at the very, very end of the route. The Mion, or of this, like of Watanagashi, right? Like in the hospital. The Mion we see stab Keiichi, right? The Mion who was there in front of Shion, right? And who supposedly killed her, right? The Takano who was already dead. But here's the thing. Takano was witnessed by Oishi, right? And several other people who otherwise, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible that this injection has been given to all of them and all of their perceptions have been altered. But, like, and that actually will tie into something else kind of later. I guess I can just kind of jump to it. Um, what was it like? Whoops. Yeah, enjoy my wallpaper engine, guys. Um, so in chapter 2, we can see, presumably on the day of Watanagashi, right? So what, that was 8? Wish I could like skip towards the end of it.
それはもはや虚し
I
い
mean, without
日
hitting.
々
I
だ
mean, S, of course, but
あら皆さんでございますの
we're actually just gonna kind of mute this right now. So one big thing I was curious of, one of the reasons I was wondering if it just like altered some kind of perception, was towards the end of the Watanagashi. We had Shion talking about how she saw, or Shion Tomatake, both talking about how they heard like some mysterious jumping, right? And I think Shion said she saw a corpse, right? So I'm wondering if something about their perception is altered because maybe they've already been given this drug. But then, like, I don't really like these theories do not coincide with each other, to be clear, at all, right? I don't really think that they can both be true together. That it's just influencing people's perception, or that it's a suicide drug. I mean, like, it can kind of do both in a way, but like, Shion did not commit suicide 3 days later. I guess she might not have had the chance to. I mean, she could have clawed at her own throat if she really wanted to, right? Is the thing. Um, yeah, she seems to see something in the cage that we don't. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So yeah, there's Tomatake saying he heard that, and then he does kill himself. Well, as far as we know. So one thing I am wondering is like if, like, so far before Watanagashi in both stories, he's already been injected with whatever like suicide drug, right, and is like going insane. So it's Shion's conversation. Yeah, so yeah, she heard the sound the whole time. Hmm. Okay, so I might end up cutting a lot of this, but something I have been wondering, what exactly... Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so I've probably cut most of the search for information here, but one of the things I was kind of alluding to earlier is I have like three main theories for right now what the injection is. One of them is the kind of like the slow descent into insanity and suicide drug. And technically these aren't mutually exclusive. But one of them is that it could also be altering our perceptions somehow. And I was kind of wondering, frankly, if that could explain why in this chapter, right, like during the Watanagashi, right, if you read all this, we heard like we didn't hear sounds that Shion did, right? We like jumping on the floorboards, and if we scroll up, I actually don't know if it's gonna make it. There it is. Wow, it just barely made it into the text log. Toмотake also heard it. And I'm like, I don't think it's that unlikely that he was injected with the drug, right? And potentially ended up killing himself as a result, right? And so could this have just altered his perception and feeling like given him feelings of paranoia? I don't I don't know. I think it's possible. Right now I'm mainly just trying to like I'm trying to cross out possibilities, but like there hasn't been much crossed out. We don't really have much to go off with anything like amplifying emotions. So yeah, that's that. Next question I had was, did Rika actually inject Mion? If so, what could this mean? We actually don't have a clue on this one. I don't think I can answer this one. This is an important one to maybe keep in mind. If we decide what the injection does. But I mean, if we think that at the point that they were at, right? Or like at that point, unless Rika had given her the injection early in the day, that does not line up with the 3-day insanity thing, right? If she had injected her, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be shocked if she just failed to. But why would she carry that around? I don't know. I think we really need to figure out what that syringe does, and then it might paint Rika in a whole new light. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. How can someone be dead and still seen by multiple people? Takano can't really be argued as a straight up hallucination because she was already dead this night. And even if you think that there are several people, because even the argument, like, and this is why I think the altered perception argument is maybe a little weak at times, or it's not the only explanation. Not that it's completely weak, but you can't explain away entire like people sometimes with it. In this case, right? You can't explain away Takano, right, with that because we didn't see anything about Keiichi being injected by this drug. Keiichi was normal in this route, right? And so I feel like that indicates that there was somebody there that looked dead on like Takano. I don't know. I don't want to say something crazy like shapeshifters, but master disguise artists, I guess, maybe, is our best guess right now. I don't know. I mean, unless we're doing like, it's either got to be like crazy disguises. I mean, okay, basically, it has to either be disguises or we got some timey-wimey shenanigans, right? That are causing these time of deaths to not line up. Because the possibilities are either that, yes, they quite literally were dead and someone took their place, and it's probably like disguise is the real explanation, or it's like that body wasn't supposed to be there 24 hours ago and somehow it is, right? Because of some weird timey-wimey shenanigan, right? I'm not trying to sit here call time travel, but those are the possibilities straight up. In my eyes right now. Either it is correct that that person was dead, and so like there has to be a real explanation, right? Real world one, that like for why we saw that person, or they weren't dead yet actually, and the autopsy is correct, but somehow the times don't they don't fully make sense, right? And so I don't know which is true, but again, this is mainly just I'm saying things to like get them out there and keep a lot of them in mind, and this is so a lot of this, like I said, kind of filler at times. What's up next? How much does Mio confirm her involvement in past cases? We actually kind of talked about this in the all cast review session. She really tries to tie everything into her, and that's actually more suspicious than not. In my opinion, I don't believe it. Right? I don't think she's tied. Like there were no direct ties that we saw to any of the yearly killings, including this year's. So I think that's that. So we can just move on past that. How much do we think we can trust Mion's word at all in the first 2 hours? I personally think it's partly reliable. How much? We kind of already talked about this. I think a lot of things she say really shouldn't be taken at face value, but I personally think everything about the Sonozaki family in history and past is probably true. Like, it is probably true. Most everything else, grains of salt. Some of it might be true. Some of it is almost certainly deception. Next question was, why did Rika have to die? Same with the mayor. The why is a big, big question. I don't know if there's any information that really, because like what they want us to think in game was it was because of the downgraded security, but I actually after the review session I'm kind of thinking it leans more into like they were just killing members of the three old families, right? I think that explanation makes a lot of sense, and any convenient explanation like that, it kind of works. Do we think Mio's appearance at the end actually meant anything? Current thought is that it was a hallucination, but it ends too early to say for sure. I wouldn't be shocked if this is some like I don't know. For like I still kind of think it's like some kind of hallucination. One of my main theories for Mion's appearances in general at the end right now is that it's like she wasn't there, but Keiichi was almost seeing what he wants to see. But the explanation is the same as Takano. Either, because with Takano, I think it's hard to think it's just hallucination, really. Like it feels kind of impossible. So you rule that out, probably, and then you're either left with the same things with Takano. It is either real and someone has taken their place, or that like that body doesn't add up like chronologically and it's timey-wimey stuff somehow, right? And so I think the same it applies there, and especially because a big counter argument for it being a hallucination there is that or honestly potentially even a counter argument to it being someone taking her shoes is that at the end Mion, like I can probably pull this up, she directly addresses something that Keiichi and her, like a conversation her and Keiichi had before. Could Shion have even heard that? Right, in a scenario where Shion is the one taking the place there, could Shion have even heard that? I don't know. Right, and so let's try to get there, because it was specifically his line about a wish, right? She's like, I already granted your wish, I'm not giving you another one, right? And so This is my only wish. And then, right there, direct reference to something she had already said. I really don't want to go with time shenanigans as a real explanation right now, but that is unironically, like, I don't really know how to explain this line. Right? Hallucination makes sense. But if we don't think Takano is a hallucination, and I really don't think she was, then how do you explain this also as a hallucination? I don't know. Because I really, like, it's not impossible that somebody else would have this information, so I don't want to discount that possibility. But it would, I don't know, it feels like a real specific callback. So I really am always hesitant to believe it could ever be time shenanigans, but it's something I'm gonna keep in my head at least. At least, you know. It feels so wrong to even be saying that as a possibility, but and so this kind of feels like when everyone else explains things away as like a curse, right? I'm defaulting to like time travel or something, right? I don't know. So I'm gonna say this is mostly just unresolved, and I don't really know, but I guess in the back of my head I will always consider that possibility. Next up, Rika seems aware that Mion killed the mayor and was unsure why she didn't kill Keiichi in the dogs and cats scene. Could this have affected her involvement? As in, to either stop Mion or to encourage her? I don't know. So this kind of goes in the thing where I'm like, is Rika more involved than I wanted to admit? I wanted to believe Rika that she's like this innocent girl who's just trying to help, but like, and she still could have been, right? She could have been trying to stop Mion with that injection, maybe, or maybe that injection had nothing to do with it. Point is, all of the stuff about Rika is I think she's much more involved than the game currently. I don't want to even say leads you to believe, but like she has I think she's gonna have a much bigger role in the story as a whole than she has had so far. Another great question. Why is Oryu dead? Why is she dead? My best guess is spite killing from Mion, or maybe just it could tie into like killing off the three families in a way, right? Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe these killings were orchestrated by an unrelated third party who wanted all of the three big families dead, right? Oryu, Mion, Shion, Kimiyoshi, as in the mayor. Kimiyoshi is the family name. I don't remember the mayor's name. Rika, like that's all of the leaders, literally all of them. Why? Why? The fact that Oryu dies too, I don't think, now that I think about it, I don't know that spite kill is like the most likely. I think there's a real chance that somebody like was just trying to eliminate all of the three families, and so who would gain from that? I don't really know, actually. Oishi, that's a stretch. I mean, the Hojos, that's a stretch, but like. I mean, the Hojos is basically one person now, so I'm basically blaming Satoko, and I'm like, do I really think Satoko did all this? Maybe. Maybe she did. Possible. But, like, I don't know that I could blame all of this on Satoko, personally. Right now. Not because I don't want to, but it just seems unfeasible. Like, we haven't seen enough to even believe she could be directly involved to think that she would be the one who wants to eliminate the three big families. And she died in the process, so, like, and things kind of continued on. Not really, but sort of the plan continued without her. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think someone was trying to kill off the three families, though, for sure. Next up, Homesteadiv, that's my words, killed Tomatake and Takano. I don't think they were Mion. So who was it? Some of my basic thoughts were Rena seems entirely uninvolved in this chapter. Same with Satoko. Rika has the motivation in this case, potentially. And it clearly at least understands what's going on in Hinamizawa. Cats and dogs scene. Also, it's actually her storehouse, you know? So if it's a member of our friend group, I would lean Rika, actually, over Mion, even. It could be someone else, kind of unrelated to Rika. And that wouldn't shock me. Or, like, unrelated to our friend group. And, like, that wouldn't shock me. But I kind of am starting to think, like, Mion was the killer of several people during this chapter. But her plans were at least in part being orchestrated by a third party. Right? And perhaps they're the third party that has been, you know, killing people every Watanagashi. Including Tomatake and Takano in this case. Next question is just straight up, should we be, like, suspicious of Oishi? So far, he's played the role of detective, and he feels like he's on the side of good, but if there's any credence to the injection and medicine theory, maybe. Also, just the fact that he's involved every time, right? He doesn't seem like he would have much to gain from this, and he seems like he actively wants to stop all of these things, like, from continuing, right? But, like, we know he's got a stretch of bad cop and being a dirty cop, right? Is it just because he's a bad actor? Or is he just dirty cop, right? Like, I don't know. I think I'm still a little suspicious of Oishi. I'm not, like, fully convinced he's on the side of good, right? Another question I had was Mion impersonating Shion in the library on the day of her disappearance? I don't know. I've already, like, looked at that scene again. We can pull it back up. But basically all it says is that this was the same day that that Mion was feeling a bit woozy, right? And so did Shion. And so I don't know whether or not two, maybe? No. This would have been directly after. So basically, I don't know if it was Mion taking the place of Shion, or if they were both feeling, like, sickly there. Right, so let's just see if we can skip a good bit of this. Let me read the next question. We kind of already talked why was Takano killed before Watanagashi even happened. The answer is, I don't know. I literally do not have a clue. I don't know where to look right now. She was killed before the act that was to be punished, right? That's pretty strange, right? And so either the substitute, like, it's either like the substitute theory or timey-wimey stuff, right? Like, in my head, right now, that's all I can think. There could easily be more explanations, to be clear. I'm not, like, dead set on those theories, but, like, that's all I've got right now. I don't know beyond that, right? And the timey-wimey stuff, that's because I don't know, right? That's basically, the replacement theory kind of makes sense, but not completely to me. Because one thing is, like, I don't know. Right, the replacement, in my head, I'm not instantly like, yeah, the replacement theory makes sense. like, it makes sense, but I don't know. Something in my gut is like, no, that's like not fully correct, at least. So, you can look at this. Hmm. Shion seemed a little unsteady too. That could indicate that this is Mion, but to be honest, I don't know. I think this is probably Shion. And then that begs the question, why was she so unsteady? Was she also up the entire prior night? Had she already been injected with something? If so, why didn't she kill herself? I don't have a clue, truthfully. I really don't know. In my head, this is probably Shion. But that leaves questions in and of itself. Right? Really, I think like a lot of things are going to make more sense like in the next chapter. There will be a lot of things that still don't make any sense at all, and that chapter will have its own fair share of mysteries. But I think chapter 3 will be when I can kind of start to like really like this episode isn't just so much me saying I don't know, I don't know, I don't know over and over again. Like I might be able to kind of try to figure some things out. Another question I had, we're actually like really close to the end of my questions, like all my prompts. So say that isn't Takano at the storehouse. Say that's a replacement, right? What does that replacement have to gain by luring them into the storehouse? This is one reason I'm a little unsure of the replacement theory. If there's no particular reason to bait them into the storehouse, why? Literally, why? Like, what would they gain, right? Like, I get like maybe the police could gain something from seeing what's in there, but like, if they were able to disguise someone and send them in there, why would they have lured in two kids, right? Rather than just having them go in there and tell them what's in there. I don't know. That's so honestly, Takano is honestly like the X factor of this chapter to me. If we figure out what's going on with Takano, I feel pretty good about our odds of figuring out the whole chapter. Like straight up. Oh, actually looking at the next two questions, they're basically derivative questions that I've already answered that I probably shouldn't have even written down. I mean, one of them is just about the demon inside of Mion and how possibly it's like coming out as a stress response. And this could explain Chapter 1 Rena. Maybe she felt extreme distress over Keiichi doing the same things as Satoshi. But like I already talked about this earlier, I don't think we need to keep talking about this. Question remains, how did they get these demons? I guess that's the valid question, because if I don't think it's just the injection, then what is it? Right? Because I don't know that I completely buy that it's the injection that's giving them these demons. Right? Like but I don't know. I could kind of buy it. Right? Because if my theory is that, well, I don't know. Like, part of me is wondering if Keiichi was given one of those demons, but I feel like that might have been something different. In my head right now, it might be. I think it might be different. So, I don't know. So, how did they get these demons? That is one of my main remaining questions. And then the next question was just, are Mion and Rena different and why they go so crazy? Is it the same kind of a demon? Or is it two completely different scenarios that should be treated as such? I don't know. On the surface, if you look at things as a stress response, it kind of makes sense. Excuse me. right? And I could see them being like tied to the same thing. But I don't completely know. I don't completely know. Man. Okay, so let's go briefly, very, very, very briefly, because I don't know how much. I might cut most of what I just recorded, truthfully. I've spent, how long have I been recording? Almost 2 hours, and I feel like I haven't really said much significant, right? A lot of this has just been, I don't know, right? So a lot of the questions I asked and thought were important, I think we'll probably end up cut. There are a few that I think I'll probably keep in, such as my possible or very likely crackpot theory of the like 3-day suicide / trek to insanity drug, right? Being part of the Watanagashi ritual. So, I mean, like, that'll probably stay in there because I feel like there was some actual substance there, whereas a lot of other ones didn't have so much substance. So let's go. I'm going to very, 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 very briefly go through this list again and say what I think the X factors that I really need to solve are. First of all, what was going on with Takano, right? So, look. There are 2 different instances of someone being already dead and somehow showing up alive. And at least one of them was witnessed by several people who probably wouldn't be hallucinating them all together. And so that begs the question, what could explain that, right? My 2 main theories right now are some kind of replacement theory where there's someone like disguised as them or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say shape-shifting, but like, just they look like them. That's the point, right? You get it, hopefully. The other possibility is that something about time is wrong, and that Takano was not actually dead during the Watanagashi, even though her autopsy said she was. And so somehow there was some, I don't want to say error in the autopsy, but error in time. And now that's where we start to get real, like, fiction, fantasy, like, almost time travel in a way. But those are the 2 main theories I can think of to explain those discrepancies right now. But even if they're both wrong, I personally think that figuring out the answer to that question of what was going on with those discrepancies, and Takano in particular, that's a big thing. That's a big one. And in Takano in particular, by the way, is because, like I said, she was seen by everyone. And if this was a replacement, right, what do they have to gain by luring people into the storehouse? Not much that I can think of, right? And so what is going on there? Solving that is a big deal. I think the next deal, another really big deal, is figuring out exactly what this injection does. If we know what this injection does, we can probably explain a lot of things. A lot of things that we right now just can't. Some other important things to know is, and I think this is going to tie into a lot, like a lot of the last theories. What's up with the injection is what in chapter 1 and 2 is unreliable narrator. What can we actually trust? I think there's a lot that we can't trust. So it's important to like kind of when we look at something as a clue or as something to keep in mind, we have to keep in mind if it's actually real and valid or if this is unreliable narrator. Just something in general, and I think this will probably continue to apply. Or not even always narrator, by the way. Sometimes in the case of like, you know, potentially chapter 2 Mion, that's not unreliable narrator if she's the one lying to us, right? It's just unreliable, like things we're being told are not always reliable. And so honestly, I think more or less those are like the really, really, really big things that I'm looking to chapter 3 for answers. Is I guess the point of this whole episode is like, what do I need answered in chapter, like, to solve the case, what do I think needs answered? So what am I keeping an eye out for in chapter 3? And I think those are the really, really big things. What is causing that time discrepancy? What is in that injection? What is reliable? What isn't? Right? And what's going on with Rika? I think she's more involved than we know right now, right? By like a lot, right? And so, because she had that syringe, right? She clearly knows a lot. Why? And I guess the final question is, I think there's a third party here. Who has to gain from all of these events? I don't know. Anyways, I think that's it for this episode. This episode's probably going to be trimmed a lot. This is probably going to be my most edited video, like quite literally ever. If you guys enjoyed this episode, let me know. Because I went back and was looking at things and theorizing a lot in here, and so I enjoy doing this anyways, trying to answer all of these questions. But if you guys don't think it makes for particularly interesting content, I won't do it again, probably. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll probably do this after each chapter. Hopefully with some more substance in future chapters. I think it's still too early to really make good theories right now. There's, like, right now we're just looking at important questions, just compiling a list of things we need answers to, right? And I think that's important because it helps me know what to keep an eye out for. So with that, that'll be all for this episode. Next episode will be chapter 3, the start of it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what crazy stuff goes on with it and any potential questions it might address. And new ones that it will probably raise, like several new ones. Probably more than it addresses, if we're being real. Yeah. So that'll be all for this episode. I can't imagine it'll be long before chapter 3. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. Peace.